Alrighty, I think we got this working and recording. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is David Hoyt from Park Mobile. I am coming to you from my home office in Orlando, Florida. Now, unfortunately, I am coming from my home office in Orlando, Florida, versus spending some time with you at our typical annual conference. But I'll be talking today about effective marketing for your parking program. A little background on myself for those of you who I haven't met or don't know very well. Again, my name is David Hoyt. I'm the Senior Vice President and I manage the sales and partnerships at Park Mobile. Prior to joining Park Mobile, I was the National Account Manager for T2 Systems. I also spent 13 years with Standard Parking as Vice President of Florida Operation. I really have been a lifelong member of FPTA. So I am excited again to talk to you about effectively marketing your mobile parking program. Ultimately, as you saw, I inserted mobile because that's really what we're going to focus on today over the next 40, 45 minutes. We will start off with a little bit of mobile parking trivia. We'll move on to really the meat and potatoes of that marketing for your mobile parking program. It begins with an effective signage program, local media, advertising and promotions, digital presence. So we'll take a look at some best practices for your digital presence and make sure that you're taking a look at your digital presence. Talk about face-to-face interactions with your customers, user engagement from more of a technical standpoint, and talk about social media and social media outreach. But before we start, I obviously want to issue a disclaimer because it's all up in red and bold. I work for Park Mobile, so you're going to see the Park Mobile logo on signs that we're referencing. Probably going to reference Park Mobile several times throughout the presentation because I'm giving you, our perspective on different things. What I'd like for you to do is really insert your mobile provider's name in there when I'm talking about Park Mobile, and think of how the tactics that we discuss can benefit your organization with your provider. Because ultimately, I've sat through shameless sales presentations at conferences, and this is not intended to be a shameless sales presentation by any means. So with that in mind, now's the time to start. Let's kick off with a quick movie clip. So that is obviously a movie clip from Field of Dreams. And Kevin Costner is, in the middle of the field and he's hearing, if you build it, he will come. Well, I've kind of adapted the movie to this presentation. And really the question is, if you build a mobile parking program, will they use it or will they come? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that I'd like to start off with, and the reason why a lot of people ask, will they come, is, not everyone is Ocean Drive. And what I mean by that is, not everyone is as busy as Miami Beach's Ocean Drive is from a parking perspective. And, with that comes other challenges. So when you're thinking about implementing a mobile parking program, or even taking a look at your existing mobile parking program and seeing how you can improve it, in addition to focusing on selling those parking spaces, you must focus on an engaging customer experience. Specifically today in, that mobile parking platform, that mobile parking payments platform concept, because you want to not only, sell those spaces through your mobile application right here and now, but you want those consumers to keep coming back, time and time again. So before we start going through the tactics, we're going to talk a little bit of mobile parking trivia. It's a great way to really think of mobile parking and where it exists today and some of the feedback that we received as an organization. So each year we go through and we do a pretty large sample, about 50,000 unique users we send out surveys to, and we get a high, response rate we get a high response rate, and some of the information that we get is telling and can help us, lay the groundwork for a successful mobile parking program. So the first one, is, how long have people had a mobile parking app on their phone? And as you can see, there's some couple of choices here, and these are the questions or the answers that we've asked our users to respond to. And ultimately, what we found out is about 76% of our users, this was at the end of 2019, and so before pre-COVID, but 76% of our users have been using an app for 2 years or less. So what does that say? Well, it says mobile parking apps, to me, are relatively new to customers. How many mobile parking apps do people have on their phone? Well, we all know that there are multiple parking apps. Most people from our user base, 63% of them only have one on their phone. This is a question that I get surprised. We've asked this a couple of times, in different surveys. I think there is a perception of what the answer is going to be, but what percentage of mobile parking app users are over the age of 50? Well, from our demographics, what it shows is that our demographics really break pretty evenly. And 38%, so almost 40% of mobile app users are 50 plus. It's not just for young people. How often do you use a mobile parking app? About 3/4, 75%, use an app at least a few times each month. So, mobile parking apps are used pretty frequently. Do you prefer to pay at a kiosk or a meter or with a parking app? Now, this one could be a little bit skewed because we are actually asking users of a parking app, would they rather pay using a parking app versus pay at a meter? But generally speaking, over 3/4 say that they would. And not only do they say that they would prefer using an app, about over 80% of them say that they use the app to pay for parking at least half of the time. So that gives you an idea, a general overview of kind of where our consumers' head is at. And ultimately that can help in, the tips for effective marketing of your program. So the first aspect was to talk about signage. And when we talk about signage, we talk really about high impact signage. And why do we talk so much about high impact signage? In a recent deployment, that we did, we asked consumers that had transacted, how did you first hear about the program? And the first rollout was, most people, or 72% of the people, had heard about the program because of the signage. Word of mouth was second, but it was, around 17%. Ultimately, people first were alerted of the program when they saw that the signage was installed. So signage is important. And we took a look at, over the last couple of years, our signage. And we've come up with what we're calling, anatomy of good signage. And it ultimately, when mobile parking payments were instituted years ago, it was really giving the consumer a lot of information, how to download the app, what to pay, a zone number, company, and if you look at signage, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it almost looks like, there's so much text in it. So what we have done from an organization is we've really taken the less is more approach when it comes to our signage. First and foremost, a large zone number. App branding is important. Whose app is accepted there. Ways to park. So if you look at the signs, the sign on the left, you'll see the different payment methods, right? You'll see a pay by app, and you can download an Apple and Google. You'll see pay online, where you can use the mobile web experience, or you can see the text to pay feature where you can pay for text. On the right, the white labeled location, you can see, you can call the 1-800 number, you can use the website. And one thing that we find important is, for an open loop white label solution like this one in Philadelphia, it is good to highlight the flagship brand. And one of the reasons why it's important to highlight the flagship brand is because we know that our consumers travel, and a lot of times they park using the Park Mobile application when they travel. And we would assume that would be across the board with other companies within the space, but about 25% of our transactions happen outside of the home zip code, the home billing zip code. So it is important to have that flagship brand on the signage as well. Prominence is also important. What we're saying by prominence is prominence both, in on-street signage as well as signage at the meters. You'll see a couple of different examples of pay stations and prominent signage where you can see it from the left-hand side, the right-hand side, and straight in front of the meter, as well as being able to see the zone number and information from afar, so you don't have to walk up to the meter. So prominent signage, or signage and decals that are prominent, is important in the organization. And not only is it important, what we have done is we've asked our clients. So we went back and studied the impact of signage across over 100 cities. And what we have found is both less prominent signage and more prominent signage. And the more that you can do, the better off you have. But just simply improving the signage, from kind of a less prominent that you see with the single space meter, where it doesn't truly use the full real estate of the meter for signage, to something that is more prominent, where you've got large decals, and just improving signage a little bit increased the new app users by 17%. Now, when those clients that we surveyed, they actually improved signage to the prominence that we recommend, we saw new app users increase by over 74%. So a huge uptick based on when you use a more prominent structure. And I'm not talking about signage clutter on street, because nobody wants that. We're just talking, we recommend block face signage, as well as signage about the meter if you have meters, and decals on the meters as well. So you're really promoting the program. And when you increase the users, the net user increase, you can see what that does to transactions. And you'll see a large southeastern city that did a signage upgrade that, you know, you starts in 1 month, and it takes a couple of months to really go through the process. And it increased about 300%, whereas a large New Jersey city, they did the same thing. They started to get some immediate impact and grew over 50, I think the number was about 58% in increased transaction volume. One thing to note is that signs and stickers last a long time, but not forever. Here's some screenshots that we took of the zombie apocalypse in a movie, and it showed our signage on a pay station that they left and it didn't get scrubbed out. But one thing that we like to recommend to our clients is, you know, signs and stickers do last a long time. We're thinking about 3 to 5 years, depending on the climate and the type of decals that were installed and signage that was installed, but they do not last forever. And rest assured that you should monitor those signs and stickers, because the general public is monitoring those, making sure that they're accurate, making sure that they're there, and they're going to let you know through social media if they're not. Moving on to local media. A lot of times there's concern about local media and really your involvement in local media. Our thought process is that media coverage is not a bad thing, and a strong local press coverage is actually a great way to inexpensively spread the word and start to build awareness. You look here, here's some screenshots of just some media coverage that got picked up on deployments. And this media coverage can be whether it's an initial deployment or you're adding a feature, but strong local press coverage is a good way to spread the word. Here's some best practices of how to work with the local media. Keep an updated list of local media contacts for TV, radio, newspaper, and web. We have a firm that does that, but on a local aspect, you know, whether it's your public information department, whoever it may be, make sure that there's a local media contacts that they have, or if it's you specifically, make sure you keep those local media contacts available. Issue a press release and send it out to that contact list. They may pick it up. You know, why not spread some good word and some good cheer about parking for a change? Be available for interviews with local reporters. One thing that we do and we recommend is really tagging local media when posting news to social channels. Ultimately, we see a lot of good social media updates in the parking industry, but when you tag the local media, it can be picked up by a much larger group and gain some legs with some conversion. And don't be afraid to offer exclusivity if you've got something that's really important. But if you're taking a positive approach or an open approach with local media, the question always comes back is, you know, what if there's a negative story? These people have my name or our information, they're going to report it anyways. And let's all admit that not available for comment or a variation of not available for comment, that's just a bad strategy. So we recommend that you have, or the organization sets up tips with dealing with a negative news story if it would ever happen. First, issue a statement or do an interview so you get your side of the story out. If there's a specific issue with a customer, don't blame that customer. And not only don't blame that customer, don't be afraid to show how you're working to resolve that issue in a fair way. And ultimately, After the story has run its course, reach out to the reporter and ask for a follow-up story. There may be something that has come out of it that's good that can be reported. And if the story is really bad, engage a crisis communication firm to help. Now on to something a little bit more positive, advertising and promotion. So local advertising, there's a lot of things that you can do with local advertising. Local media outlets offer plenty of opportunities for you to promote your mobile parking app to a wide audience. We do some, local ads. We've done some local ads, specifically usually staying in traffic and weather because that tends to get some bang for the buck. But we also look at creative ways to get the word out. And I'm going to play a short video about how we were featured on a local TV show in Atlanta called Atlanta Eats.
People come up to me on the street and say, Jeff, thank you for this time. Because, man, I used to run to the meter and have to have coins, and it was such a pain. And with Park Mobile, you don't need coins. You don't need to go to the meter. You pay right on your phone.
So picture two people in downtown Atlanta or midtown, they're having a great day. And now what's one of the biggest nuisances is checking your watch, right? Finding how much time you have left. It could be a business meeting. It could be a great date. It could be the energy of just being with buddies. And now you are not trapped, by that constant parking stress. We're going to start by saying an hour. And we know if we end up going to our app, we're obviously having a great night.
You may want to have dessert. Let's extend for 30 minutes. You may want to have one more drink, extend for another 30 minutes. So, it just gives you that flexibility, that option without having to leave the restaurant, run back to the meter and put some coins in.
All right, let's see if we can advance this now.
I used to pull in downtown Atlanta or midtown.
In Pittsburgh.
There we go. Ultimately, so local media can help. Cities also can choose to do special promotions. And they get a lot of bang for the buck on helping to drive first-time users, helping to drive users to use the app versus hardware. Here's some great examples of some promotions that the city of Clearwater had done. These promotions can be through social media, they can be via email. There's a lot of ways, but special promotions are a great way to help drive first-time users. Digital presence, moving on to digital presence. One thing about digital presence is after you look at this section, I'd like you to think about, what your digital presence is with your existing facility or your existing location, and take a look and see if there's some ways to improve it. But this is a joke that my CMO says all the time. Where's the best place to hide a dead body? Page 2 of a Google search results. And it's true. How many of you go and look at page 2 of a Google search? In most cases, we're not looking at it. And by the way, everything starts with Google for the most part, right? So on average, there's about 3.5 billion web searches every day. And 93 of those searches are done through Google. And a strong search results really start with well-optimized websites. You want to be at the top of the page. You want to be on page 1. You want to be on top of the page. And if you're not there, if your website is not optimized to where it can be, you can spend some money through Google to get there. And it's more important than you think when, especially for a visitor or somebody that doesn't park a lot and they're trying to get information about your university, your municipality. You don't want them to have to search to get to that parking department or the parking authorities. So spending a little bit of money on Google AdWords or something like that is money well spent. And once you get them to your website, what we recommend is, don't send them through an archaeological dig to get to your website, to get to that content that you want them to get to. And this is where I think after the presentation, go take a look at your website, see how user-friendly it is, see what the consumer is going to look for, get or have to go through to get information about parking in your place of business. One thing to remember, and what we look at is, we keep it above the fold. Excuse me. And what does that mean? Well, ultimately, human nature means that at I value, the lower that you go down on a website, the less activity you get. So the more activity is above the fold, less activity is below the fold. And you can see the heat maps. And we do this most, your IT department can have something like this available for you if you work with them. But keeping it above the fold, see where people are clicking, see how you can improve is a benefit in your digital presence. So on that theme, right, above the fold, make it important, the important things above the fold, right? On a Park Mobile website, the important things are, download the app, get it on Google, get it on Apple, make sure that those high profile locations are above the fold. Here's a couple of examples of Florida clients that really keep the call to action above the fold. So if you look at Boynton Beach on the left and Lakeland on the right, they're both promoting the mobile pay aspect of their parking operations with large and prominent call outs for the consumer if they're searching through to download the program. And don't forget that videos become a resource within a website. We do a ton of video work. We specialize in doing video work that is customized for our clients. And our clients are able to download, demos on the Park Mobile side. And I've seen a lot of, whether it's Passport or Pay by Phone or others within the industry, demoing, their how-to videos or whatever it may be. We allow our clients to pull those out and embed them on their website. And that's important to do. And if you look at an example of the city of Delray Beach, not only do they have a video that demos, the tutorial of how to use the app, they also created a video that's customized about the entire program. It's real easy for the consumers when they get to this aspect to figure out, one, how does the program work? And two, how does the mobile app work in the city of Delray Beach? And one thing to note is behind Google, when it comes to that how do I use the mobile app? How do I, access the parking garage? How do I, whatever the how-to is, think of how you learn. The number one search that is specific to how-to is YouTube and videos. And so that could be an important way for you to improve your digital presence just by adding videos to your repertoire. Moving on to face-to-face interactions. Face-to-face interactions can be street teams, where you go out in the street and initial deployment. They also can be any time that you go out and you distribute information, whether it's during the initial deployment or whether it's ongoing face-to-face interactions like attending a farmer's market, doing a 5K run or an arts and foods festival, outdoor concerts. These are great ways to interact face-to-face with your consumers and get the word out, whether you're distributing wallet cards or swag, whatever it may be. Many times you can work with local retailers on promotions and giving out promotions. And here's a great example of what we did in giving out promotions when we hit the streets in Philadelphia.
This is Jeff and Brooke from Park Mobile. We're here for the City of Philadelphia, and we have VIP passes to kick off concerts featuring Shawn Mendes. So we're going to talk to people today. We're going to give out some passes. So let's go around the city and see what's going on. Basically, if you don't use this app, you don't park. You get towed.
Very difficult to park in Philadelphia, but with the Kiosk app, it makes it more convenient. I hate waiting in line at meters. It makes it so much easier.
It's super easy and convenient when paying for parking and everything.
This app makes it so easy to just not leave at my work and just pay it right when I'm in the office, and I don't leave it so much more convenient than going outside, having to leave my meeting.
And it saves you a lot of money because you can actually cut off whenever you need your parking.
You don't have to have change in the meter. It's quick. It's simple.
Well, it tells me the exact locations of where I can park, so I'm not playing the guessing game. Oh my gosh, it's the best app. I never get a ticket anymore. I can't believe it. No, like everyone doesn't have it. You just get it. It's so quick and easy. I don't wait anything. It's just wonderful.
The app is so much easier instead of getting out of your car. It's like 104 degrees today, so it makes it super easy and super quick.
So that was an example of us hitting the streets in Philadelphia, getting some consumer engagement, and not only doing that, but we videotaped it, and then we got the Philadelphia Parking Authority to put it on their website to just talk about the user engagement and how easy the app was. So those are great ways in face-to-face and really leveraging that face-to-face. And the final thing to talk about on face-to-face, although it's a little bit different today with COVID, obviously, but in a post-COVID world, you're going to have people that are going to visit your municipal offices. They're going to be visiting your university on occasion, and ultimately having just collateral or signage or some swag to give out to the consumers is a great way to promote that face-to-face activity. And user engagement, a lot of things can come into user engagement in our mind, but ultimately one of our one way of engagement with our consumers is through email. And we're communicating through email on market launches. A lot of times you can have a market launch where you're launching a market that is next to another market or in a region. So we can, by zip code, send it out. We can get a list of email addresses from a previous provider and send out an email for a market launch, or send it out just in general and get that word of mouth moving around so people know about the new market launch. We also engage our users in email when we're asking them we're identifying that they haven't used the app in a while. And so we're asking them to get re-engaged or trying to promote them to get re-engaged. And we also use it a lot in reservations and special events to just talk about parking. And really, it's not just about the parking aspect of it. A lot of times we're integrated into the concept of the know before you go at a venue. And parking is part of that, where it is make a parking reservation and helps, stop this circling, trying to find a parking space, and then sometimes overpaying. So some effective ways to use email, again, market launches, expansion into new areas, promotions, product enhancements, traffic alerts. There's a lot of ways, and we do a lot of surveys with Park Mobile and we get a lot of positive feedback from our consumers via email. Another way to engage is through geofencing, because then that becomes very specific, where we can geofence an area, put a circle around an area, and when a Park Mobile customer pulls in or your app customer pulls in, it'll give them either a pop-up like this. This was just talking about the city of Baton Rouge going to, potentially going to use Park Mobile in the pop-up. It can be anywhere where you want to go, and the message is customizable. We also use a lot of in-app messaging, because in-app messaging, it's high impact. It gives you a good look, and the consumers are engaged through the process, and you can really communicate a variety of topics, whether it's alerts, whether it's promotions, whether it's events. If you look across the screen, you'll see everything from a donation to some sort of a policy change. Also available, a new feature with it being available in New York City. So it is a very powerful tool in that messaging with a very high conversion rate. We're going to end up on social media like we talked about. And social media can be an effective channel to promote your parking operations as well. You can distribute that information to engage users on multiple platforms. And it can be, very similar, but you can engage users on Twitter, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it may be, and really get out to a large number of consumers about the program, about promotions and social media. And there's a lot of individuals here in the Florida Parking Association organizations that do a great job of social media. Miami Parking Authority comes to mind as top of hand. They do a great job promoting their mobile pay program in Miami. So embrace social media, because it can be an effective channel to promote the program. We tend to, or we have not tend to, we've used influencers in different markets, whether it's market launches. Don't be afraid to use a local influencer to promote, a city launch or a venue or an event, because it just increases your breadth of reach for whatever you're trying to do. One thing to note is that you're never going to win a fight on social media. Don't even try. What we talk to on our side and what we recommend when we're talking to our clients is, if somebody complains on social media, just understand it. And here's some keys to really de-escalating it. One is be responsive, right? Try and respond within the hour if possible. Show some empathy. Truly try to help. See if you can look, for a solution for that problem. If possible, take the issue offline. Get it into a DM status and take it offline. But one of the most important things, and where huge failures come in on social media, is when you don't see the issue through to resolution. You just think it's going to go away because you put a post on the issue, or you try to get somebody into a DM so it would be out of the public eye. Ultimately, see the issue through resolution, because if you don't, then they're going to step on that existing message and really get it amplified. So some final thoughts, and to wrap up the presentation. If you're looking at, some of the top tips for effective marketing and what you can look at your program, one, evaluate your signage if you've got an existing program, or two, if you're launching a program, commit to launching with really effective signage. Make sure it's prominent, make sure it hits. Use the less is more, but make sure that it is effective signage. Embrace the local media. Don't be afraid of the local media. but embrace the local media, but be prepared in advance for negative news stories. You can advertise and promote parking. Don't be afraid of that either. Review your digital presence. After the meeting, go in, search for your website, and then when you get to your website, see where it takes you and how long it would answer your question if you were a consumer not really knowing how to navigate. Face-to-face interactions are not a bad thing. Go out, have face-to-face interactions, and video it if you can, and promote it. Engage with your users. And allow social media to be an effective tool and be your friend. And we're going to end up kind of where we started with a video clip from Field of Dreams.
Ray, people will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa, for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. But it's money they have, and peace they lack.
Ray, just sign the papers.
They'll walk out to the bleachers, sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. You'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines. Where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game. It'll be as if they dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick, they'll have to brush them away from their faces.
Ray, when the bank opens in the morning, don't foreclose.
People will come, Ray.
You're broke, Ray. You sell now or you lose everything.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
So in closing, we heard from Kevin Costner in the beginning and James Earl Jones in the end, right? So in closing, if you build it and you take those tactics and you market it, people will come. And we'll charge them and they'll pay. You may not like paying, but we'll charge them and they'll pay. And you can have a successful program just by investing in marketing and really taking a look at what can be, positive about your program. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.